For me, I am passionate about anime. I've been interested in popular anime series such as Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, and Solo Leveling since I was 8 or 9 years old. I even have a Dragon Ball Z tattoo. I was embarrassed by it and kept it hidden because I feared being teased until my college years. Now, in my mid-30s, I am open about being an anime enthusiast and have a I don't care what people think attitude. I have met very few people in my life who share my level of interest in anime. So, men of Reddit, what are you passionate about that most people are not? Story 1. How Hebrew words were translated into Greek in the 3rd to 2nd century BCE translations of the Hebrew Bible and then adopted and used in the New Testament. Story 2. I don't think there is anything in the world that everyone is passionate about, but I have met very few people in real life who are as enthusiastic about Warhammer 40,000 as I am. I have talked to many online, but not in real life. All traditionally nerdy interests, such as gaming, science fiction, and anime, are quite popular right now. Story 3, self-sufficiency, not in a wired homesteady way, but in a I know how to change my engine oil because it is cheaper to do it myself way. I have learned how to do just about every service I have needed throughout my home and vehicle and weighed it against the cost of having someone else do the work to decide if it is worth paying someone else. If I want something done, I at least figure out the basics of what is involved and what is going on. This has earned me the moniker of Mr. Fix-It among my friends because if I have not done it, I probably know how to get it done or who to call. Story 4. You know it is actually cool to be nerdy and into anime now, right? All the geeky things are now mainstream. Even the electronic girls are capitalizing on it for money. Story 5. Making stuff. 3D printing, home remodeling, art, guitars, and more. Currently building a multiple arcade machine emulator cabinet and almost done with it. I had some cabinet art made so I could add a lit marquee, sound reactive backlighting, new speakers, amplifier, control panel with labeled toggle switches, 2 controllers and buttons, and replace the coin slot and coin box with a mini fridge and snack compartment for my daughter. Story 6. I guess I'm nerdy about video game music. Back in the late 1980s, I would record music from video games on a tape recorder and listen to it on my way to and from school on my Walkman. I was also into comics and anime around this time. I would buy subtitled Dragon Ball Z movies and episodes on VHS and pretended to be Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet right when that comic came out. Now, I mostly follow comic and anime news through summaries on YouTube. I still listen to video game music, but now I also enjoy making heavy metal covers of game music. Story 7. For a long time, I was really into watches. I know the Reddit watches subreddit is over 1 million now, so I am hardly alone in this, but I really went deep on movements, independent manufacturers, following prices and design trends. I only own one truly luxury watch and probably always will. It is a fun rabbit hole for anybody who likes mechanics and design. Story 8. Transgenerational trauma, also known as the family curse. I have been working on piecing together the origins of generational trauma through genealogy and stories about my ancestors, including how my parents were raised and notes from their parents and grandparents. The first step to breaking the family curse is to understand how long it has been happening and to identify repeating behavioral patterns. You can then use that information to create a genogram, which is like a family tree for behavior instead of ancestral lineage. Story 9. Food. Cooking is my hobby, and I love learning about the origins of dishes, how cuisine changed, and particularly how new cuisines came to be. Some people criticize Chinese American takeout as not real Chinese, and that's fair, but it is a beautiful story of collaboration among immigrants from China. They brought their various cultural and regional dishes, sharing them with other Chinese immigrants to help them integrate into their new homes by blending these styles with local ingredients and adapting the flavors to suit the palates of their American customers. It's a beautiful story that reflects the American experience. Additionally, it can lead to learning about other niche groups in history, like the Chinese Americans in the Mississippi Delta who acted as middlemen during Jim Crow. We are what we eat, so what is wrong with learning who we are? Foods truly reflect where people come from. Stir-fry originated because northern China was scarce in fuel, so people cut everything small and cooked quickly to conserve fuel. When you try dishes from around the world, you get a glimpse into a vast history that we often do not consider. Story 10. I will not say nobody, because there are online forums, but I am very interested in sports uniforms and logos. Helmets, alternate or throwback jerseys, all of that. I am friends with some of the most dedicated sports fans you would ever meet, and even they do not notice or care about 1/10 of the things that I do. Story 11. I guess it is quite common, but video games. I really love playing video games on my personal computer, and I have spent a lot of money on it. I have been a gamer for more than 30 years, and now that I am single, I am going to decorate my entire house with gaming-related posters and figurines. Story 12. Guns. I know many people like guns, but most who do, at least where I am in Texas, enjoy them for one of two reasons: quasi-fascist dreams of violence or the cool factor. I do not begrudge the latter and agree to some extent, but I have many issues with the former. I enjoy guns in a very nerdy way. I love the exact statistics, specifications, numbers, and instant feedback. I also like the history, but less than true weapon history enthusiasts. For example, I have spent many hours over the last couple of months modeling around 80 different cartridges in computer-aided design software so that I, and anyone else, can three-dimensional print them for size and shape comparison. Story 13. I am a Warhammer enthusiast. I know a lot of the lore for no particular reason other than being bored during my downtime and reading through the wikis. Story 14. Mythology, folk legends, and dreams, especially lucid dreams, have always fascinated me. Oddly, these are niche interests, yet the people I have grown close to in recent years share them as well. We discovered this only later on. Story 15. Random little things, Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, but I do not claim to be knowledgeable enough in either. Story 16. Some people might see it as trash or already used, but I love collecting any kind of items that I think I can use for arts and crafts. Story 17. Telescopes or optical equipment allow you to see things with your own eyes, which is something an image cannot capture. Story 18. Puffer jackets. I collect them even though I currently live in a tropical country and have no use for them outside of vacations. At last count, I probably have about 60 to 70 puffer jackets, enough to open a retail store. Story 19. I am a computer enthusiast. I run Linux as my home desktop and have a self-hosted server in my closet. I also run a print shop and have built our network and server infrastructure over the past 10 years. Recently, I added a 3-node Proxmox cluster. I am trying to host as many of our digital services on-premise as possible. Story 20. Physics in general. I completed a master's degree in particle physics, but 1/3 of our courses were related to astrophysics. I changed majors but still have a passion for advanced physics concepts. Story 21. Mechanical pencils. I still do math in my spare time, and the Japanese-made Uni Kurutoga is the best for writing numbers in print. The pencils were designed to produce cleaner lines for Japanese characters, so the instrument works wonderfully on numbers and English print. Story 22. Films and how to make them. I feel most people are not interested in the entire process, only the finished product or a specific part. Story 23. The Phantom of the Opera in all its iterations, especially the Gaston Leroux novel. I am amused by the belief that being interested in Japanese animation is rare, though. It is basically a common theme at this point. Story 24. Star Wars Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because of Disney Plus, a lot of people stopped getting interested in it. 3D computer graphics and game design. Church. Story 25. Probably books. I usually read 20 or more books per year, and even when talking about the classics, no one seems to have actually read anything or completely missed the point of the book. It is kind of frustrating when you ask, did we even read the same book? Story 26. I have been collecting Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft-related items for 35 years. I have been a Star Trek fan since The Next Generation. I listen to music obsessively. My biggest interest is video games. My parents have a photo of me as a small child holding a Palm controller, and I have never stopped playing. It is hard to indulge in these hobbies as I age and raise children, but I still hold them close and pursue them when I can. Story 27. I am extremely interested in battery technology and the modern developments in this field. I also love Green Lantern. Story 28. I like to breed competitive viable Pokemon with perfect individual values, natures, and egg moves. but I only use them for casual play, such as using a non-starter Pokemon as my starter. I also hunt for 5 individual value perfect legendaries. So far, I have a Timid Latias, Timid Mutwo, Jolly Rayquaza, and an Urshifu Rapid. I remember a time when liking anime was uncool. I'll never forget having to hide my anime passion from my high school classmates. Story 29. For me, food. The science, history, techniques, and culture. Everything. Anything from 3 Michelin star restaurants to the most humble street stall. I love it. I love cooking something incredible and surprising them with science or cultural combinations. Story 30. Oh crap. Let me rattle off my nerdy hobbies first. Anime, Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, Linux, Warhammer 40,000, 3-dimensional printing, foamcraft, and gardening. Which of these are relatively rare among the people I interact with? Linux, 3-dimensional printing, and foamcraft probably. I've been interested in Linux since middle school, so somewhere around 2004, but most of my educational career required Windows. I finally broke that, and I'm using Fedora at the moment. I got a 3-dimensional printer for my Dungeons and Dragons to supply miniatures and terrain. I got into printing terrain and it's cool, but it's just not doing it for me, so that's where foamcraft comes in. Takes longer, more work, but it's more satisfying to look at my little village and know they're my work. I 3-dimensional print miniatures only now, and the occasional replacement part for something I'm either repairing or tinkering with. Story 31. I am in the United States and can provide a complete and thorough explanation of the breakup of the Bell system monopoly, the consolidation of the regional operating company networks, and how everything is returning to larger companies that own many of the former Baby Bell systems. I can also explain the differences between analog code division multiple access, time division multiple access, and global system for mobile communications networks. Do not forget about the integrated digital enhanced network as well. Trust me, it is valuable information, though people often lose interest quickly. Story 32. Video games. I was a good student but more known for being a wrestler growing up. I looked like a meathead. I was on the internet since grade school on dial-up in the 1990s posting on game FAQs. I always had a Game Boy with me at tournaments. There were a few gamers on the wrestling team, but I was the reason my friends and I played good games. I love good games, bad games, gaming hardware, and gaming in general. I've been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for almost 10 years. I'm a brown belt, still buff, and occasionally compete. I don't like weightlifting or drilling anymore. I don't nerd out on it like most people at my level. I just love sparring and playing the game. I don't study it that much, but I put in the work because it makes sparring more fun. Video games are something I'm deeply into, even if I only play a few hours a week if unlucky. I have every major console except the Saturn. I've been showing them to my son recently and having a ton of fun. I've also been emulating a lot of games lately. I made a list of all the games I was vaguely interested in. I might play some for 10 minutes, might play some all the way through. If new games stopped being made, I could still play through new games to me for the rest of my life. My wife is cool with it, even though she plays 0 games. I have a good job and have a set amount each paycheck for my fun budget. I might get rid of some of my collection to make space since I never use certain consoles. I only have a handful of games I'd like to keep forever. Story 33. I collect high-end cutlery and am very knowledgeable about the steel composition and the history of steel relating to the knife industry. We are truly in a platinum age of steel. Do you want steel that never rusts? That exists. Steel that may never need sharpening if used properly? It exists. Truly fascinating information, at least to me. Story 34. I have always been interested in analog electronics, but recently I started a project that I do not think anyone has worked on since my grandfather's era. Building my own low-frequency radio transmitter. It is quite rare to find radio enthusiasts, and I am the youngest among the few I have met. Story 35. I am really into Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, more into Yu-Gi-Oh! I had kept it low-key because of embarrassment, but since being in a relationship with my current girlfriend, she has helped me express my love for this kind of stuff and created a safe space for me to do so without judgment. Now, I do not worry about being open about it. I wear shirts and other nerdy clothing everywhere. She even tried to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With me and learn, which was very awesome. Story 36. Stuff like superstitions, paranormal beings, and mythical creatures, how to defeat them, befriend them, what they look like, and their traits. I know all of it, and it is incredibly interesting to me. Story 37. Biology. I am not sure if this counts as nerdiness, but I love watching bugs or spiders just exist, especially ants. Biology overall is just so cool. Story 38. Have you ever watched the anime Moribito, Guardian of the Spirit? If not, I highly recommend it. It is one of the best anime I have ever seen in my entire life. Story 39. Lots, for example, Linux, including professionally. For example, my personal home operating system is Linux and has been for over a quarter century. Before that, it was Unix, and before that, well, nerd. Story 40. Respect. Owning your passion, especially when it was not always cool, takes courage. Anime shaped many of us, and it is great that you stuck with it. That Dragon Ball Z tattoo? Battle scar of a real fan. Story 41. As a kid, I followed professional wrestling. I can tell you almost everything from 1984 to 2004. I am also familiar with the Halloween horror movie franchise featuring Michael Myers. Additionally, I have extensive knowledge of college football. These topics are not uncommon, but I have abundant knowledge of all three. Story 42. The thing about anime, maybe my school was different. If you were made fun of for liking anime, it was rare. I'm 34, and in high school and middle school, I would guess that 1/3 to half the kids were closeted fans. Half the high school girls dressed like Sailor Scouts or characters from Inuyasha during Halloween. There was a competitive Pokemon circuit, and the entire basketball team watched anime. Granted, half of the team were Filipino. The Asian crew all watched Initial D, Great Teacher Onizuka, and the Big Three plus Dragon Ball Z. The thing is, you just didn't talk about the really niche stuff. At the very least, I never felt bullied for watching anime. I cosplayed at conventions in my teenage days. Story 43. If we are talking locally, it is electronics and computers. For some reason, everyone in my school has no idea when I talk about electronics or computers. For example, I would explain how the quality of a charger reduces the risk of fires happening, which often occurs here in the Philippines, and they initially doubt it but become convinced after a bit of searching online. Regarding computers, they do not know that Linux exists or that the terminal is not a scary program. They also call a computer, including the case and motherboard, a central processing unit. Story 44. Linux. I want to make applications for it so it is easier for people to move away from large technology companies. It is a fascinating ecosystem as well. Story 45. Ski gear. I am an avid skier, skiing 35 to 40 days per season, combining resort and backcountry skiing. While I obviously love the sport for its own merits, I am also fascinated by the gear. I own quite a few skis, demo other skis often, and read every review I can find for new gear. It is more than just the skis. Boots, outerwear, bindings, and almost every other piece of gear involved in skiing all hold my interest. The latest area I have started to explore is mountaineering equipment, such as crampons and ice axes. Story 46. The rules of golf. I ran golf tournaments for a living for 20 years and still volunteer as an official. Story 47. Old Weather Channel local on the 8s. There are a few people more knowledgeable than me who post videos on YouTube. I think there is even a live emulator somewhere, but I cannot find it. Story 48. Age of Empires 2. If you played it at age 13, you should know it is still going strong and has been greatly expanded. Story 49. Drawing like cute animals in fantasy. It used to make me very self-conscious as a man, but then I realized that I was putting restraints on myself. If someone judges you negatively, it usually says more about them. Story 50. Random bits of unusual trivia. For example, I just had a conversation about the Noid hostage incident with some friends. Story 51. I have a lot of interests, to be honest. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Anime and older console role-playing games. If I were to be more specific, probably philosophy, sociological concepts, and doing thought experiments. Story 52. Fountain pens and old machine tools are items I have a growing and financially significant collection of. I enjoy all kinds of creative outlets, but there is something special about working with old manual lathes and mills. Mine are from the 1940s and 1950s, and they are still much better than anything you could buy new at the same price point. Story 53. Started gaming at a very young age and steadily developed a passion for it. I game a lot now and am very knowledgeable about the entire field. More specifically, I am very interested in game development and how things work behind the scenes, even though I do not have the skills or interest to develop games myself. I enjoy trying tech demos, beta versions, and similar content to try and break the game. I feel this gives me insight into the creative processes of the developers. I have many friends who game as regularly as I do, but none care about the industry aspects beyond playing the games. I am also deeply involved in martial arts but have no interest in competitions or fighting others, regardless of the reason. I appreciate exploring the art side and finding self-expression. When I discuss this with people, especially after telling them how long I have been practicing martial arts, they often give me a strange look, as if martial artists are required to fight. Story 54. I'm not sure about everyone, but I love exploring the structure of music and understanding what makes it so satisfying to listen to. I often dissect songs, analyze each instrument or sample, and then try to recreate them in a digital audio workstation just for fun. Story 55. Reptiles, amphibians, and exotic pets. There is a large community of reptile enthusiasts, but 90% of comments on a snake video are still, "Oh my God," "No," or "Kill it," or "Is it poisonous?" And I just shake my head. It is almost always some kind of harmless bull snake or ball python, which is known as the most docile snake species. My wife is breeding garter snakes. Most people think they are just generic little snakes you find in your yard, which they can be, but there are some amazing color morphs that sell for quite a bit of money. We are fortunate to live a couple of hours from Emily and Ed from Snake Discovery. They host pet expos in our area, and we will be vending at one in Wisconsin on Sunday. Emily also sells houseplants for terrariums there. It is great to get to know other regular vendors and meet up for shows every few months. Thanks to our proximity to Snake Discovery, we have met several reptile YouTubers when they visit the store and zoo for special events. Immersing myself in the reptile world has been amazing. It is rewarding to hatch your own baby animals. We are currently working with snakes and have had some geckos reproduce. Traveling to expos, seeing a variety of animals, learning about conservation efforts, watching people build reptile farms and collections on YouTube, and understanding proper care and housing for different species is fantastic. Story 56. Beer. I enjoy drinking it, but I also deeply appreciate it. The biology of yeast metabolism and the malting process. The chemistry of starch conversion and alpha acid isomerization. How the particulates in local water sources influenced the development of historical regional beers. The biography of Arnold of Soissons, the patron saint of brewers and hop pickers, who convinced people in the 11th century to drink beer instead of water for health reasons. This was centuries before we understood that boiling killed pathogens in water, but saving his church from the plague was enough for him to be canonized. If you want to visit the local brewery and explore our beers in detail, I am your guide. Story 57. Music. I have thousands of albums in multiple formats. Compact disc, long play, 45 revolutions per minute, and 78 revolutions per minute. I play multiple instruments and have a large collection of sheet music. Story 58. Relationship dynamics. I am genuinely curious about relationship dynamics, how they function, and their ebb and flow. I find it difficult to discuss this with others because it feels unusual. Story 59. Cranes. Offshore, mobile, gantry, crawler, tower. They are all amazing to me. I share interesting facts about any crane I see with people around me. Story 60. I am passionate about skiing. Specifically, I analyze videos of people skiing by observing details such as the time of year based on how the snow moves when skiers skid on it and listening to the sounds the snow makes. Details like these fascinate me when I watch clips of snow sports anywhere. Story 61. Mathematics and physics. I like watching YouTube videos and reading articles on history, research, and unsolved problems. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.